It might just be one of the worst things we've ever heard of the Walt Disney Company doing. And that's really saying something. But folks, today we'll tell you about a child at Walt Disney World who was denied accommodations for a very serious medical condition. It's the kind of video we don't want to do because we don't want to believe we live in a world where corporations like Disney would force us to cover something that disgusts us this way. Hello, folks, and welcome back. It is with a heavy heart that we must report that an injustice was done to a small child and to the family, allegedly, and we're going to bring it to you. It is really revolting. We've got the info, we'll bring it to you, and it's what we do here on this channel is to expose these things to the sunlight. You comment down below, and hopefully, somewhere, some way, Disney will fix this in whatever way they still can. You hyping this up, sharing it out, that's the way we put Disney in a no-doubt scenario where they need to do the right thing. Come on, Disney. Come on. No, we're just going to sit in it, folks. We're not going to, just come on. What's wrong with you? Like, who at the company is going to do the right thing here? I don't want to have to do this video. Disney, you listening to me? I know you listen. I don't want to do this one. Just fix it. Oh, you're not going to fix it? Okay, we'll do the video. All right, fine then. All right, here we go. Out of that park place, since, Marvin Montanaro. Disney World denies 2-year-old transplant survivor disability access. Okay. Disney keeps telling Wall Street that Walt Disney World is for everyone, but for one Ohio family traveling with a 2-year-old heart transplant survivor, the newly overhauled Disney World Disability Access Service turned a milestone trip into a relentless exercise in humiliation, stress, and medical risk. Instead of making things easier for a child who literally survived organ failure, Disney forced her mother to repeatedly explain and emotionally relive her daughter's near-death experience just to access rides safely. The story, reported by WDW News Today, is one of the clearest examples yet of how Disney's 2024 DAS, is what they call it, overhaul has crossed a line from stopping misuse of the services into punishing families with legitimate medical needs. In 2024, Disney radically tightened eligibility for its disability access service at both Disney World and Land. While Disney claimed the changes were meant to prevent misuse of the system, many guests with serious medical conditions have since found themselves denied accommodations. The new process requires families to go through high-pressure video calls, justify their diagnoses, and rely on cast members to make case-by-case decisions, often without medical training. For Caitlin, a mother from Ohio, that system failed in the most devastating way possible. Caitlin's daughter, Frankie, is not a theoretical edge case. She is a toddler heart transplant recipient who depends on medication, strict schedules, and protection from crowded and closed spaces to stay alive. 18 months ago, describes her family, I stood in a hospital room and prayed for a miracle, this being her mother. My daughter's heart was failing, and we were running out of time. When the call finally came that a donor heart was available, it felt like the world stopped. We knew another family was losing everything so ours could have a chance. That is a weight I carry every single day. In October of 2025, the family took Frankie to Walt Disney World to celebrate her birthday, knowing full well that 18 months earlier, doctors weren't sure she would ever reach it. But Disney's disability system turned that celebration into a trial. Here's the next quote. The Disney trip, the one we just took, was supposed to be a celebration of survival. It wasn't supposed to feel like a fight. But the new disability access service system turned what should have been a magical experience into a series of hurdles no parent of a medically complex child should ever have to navigate. According to Caitlin, the House of Mouse said, you can wait in the regular line. If she struggles, she can leave and return later when you are closer to the front of the attraction, or ask for a return time. Apparently that was medically dangerous. Disney allegedly wanted a 2-year-old heart transplant survivor to wait in line, trigger a potentially dangerous situation before it would provide any kind of meaningful aid. This all has to do with waiting in long lines and her being on a medication window. For those of you out there who might still be listening and say, well, I don't know, Pro. I mean, it does sound like, you wait in line. Because she's a toddler with a heart transplant, they're on medical schedules, and you could say, well, maybe she doesn't need to go to Disney. Whatever, folks. You know what? I don't know the situation here, but if they want to take their kid that survived this to Disney World and have that memory, we don't take days for granted. We don't assume we have unlimited numbers. Ron, for this DAS system to be working this way where Disney is, I mean, if she doesn't qualify, who the heck qualifies? If a toddler heart transplant, patient doesn't qualify for having accommodations, I don't know what it takes.
This is honestly, this goes so far beyond the pale for what Disney used to be. It completely flies in the face of a fifth key that they have called inclusion, where they clearly exclude as many people as they possibly can from having any kind of joy at their parks anymore. This is so like this. Let's use the word correctly. This is the antithesis of Disney, of what they used to be, at least. And except now, unfortunately, this is actually becoming the example of what Disney is to a lot of families. And they keep doing it. They're digging a hole as far as their image is concerned. The public, like the public persona of the Walt Disney Company as a whole, well, it's becoming that the Walt Disney Company is a whole. And it's very unfortunate for a lot of us who have been fans of this company, of the brand, of what Disney has stood for many, many decades throughout our entire lives. There was a lot of goodness, the 90s, the Disney decade, all of that. And it's really kind of heartbreaking. A few years ago, really a few short years ago, situation like this with the family, they go to guest services, they say, hey, this is our situation, child, just a heart transplant survivor. When they get to the park, they could have done that, and they could have asked for the accommodation, and it would have simply been given. That's it. Maybe it doesn't need to go back to exactly that, but they certainly need to solve this issue, having done thorough interviews of people who have been denied the disability access service, and seeing what has gone on with this level of exclusion, specifically because they now need people to pay desperately for those lightning lanes that are needed during only a few times per year. I'll be honest, they're really not.
And Ron, the problem is if you have a disability, and that would allow you to skip the line. And we're talking about, folks, we're not talking about people frivolously doing that. We're talking about a 2-year-old heart transplant, individual and family who are saying, hey, call us back when it would be our time. She can't be in the line. She's got to take medication. We're going to go over here to this private area. We're going to take care of her. But, life is fleeting, and we wanted to have this Disney, moment. So let us get the girl on the ride. If the thinking is, that actually is taken away from our lightning lane sales. People tell me, Ron, they say, Josh D'Amaro, he's a good guy. He's a great guy. We love the guy. And you and I have talked about this. The problem I have is the stuff that's happening at Disney World doesn't portend that anybody at the top is a good guy right now. And I don't want to, here's the deal, Josh. If you're going to be the next CEO, or if you're in charge of the parks right now, hey, you're a good guy. Fix this. Fix it right now. I don't want to run these reports anymore. I don't want to do these videos anymore. I don't like it. I don't want to cover that you wouldn't let a heart transplant toddler, have accommodations. Culture, you've been paying attention to the parks for a long time. This is not the Disney that was. Walk us through this. And as you do, folks, look at what the mom says. She says, I have a 2-year-old who had a heart transplant. She's immunosuppressed. She can't stay in crowded lines. We need to minimize exposure. She's nonverbal. She takes medication throughout the day. They're not asking for much, folks. They're saying, can we go over here on an uncrowded day of Disney and sit at a table, and when it's our time to ride Little Mermaid, this little girl who otherwise won't get to ride it, can we go over there? Like, we'll come back in 2 hours. Just let us ride the ride so that she's not in a crowded area, and we got to do the medication thing. Culture, your thoughts?
Well, this is part of a cultural collapse that has been accelerating across the country, but in a more obvious way at the theme parks. Disney itself is in the midst of cultural collapse. They decided to abandon the idea of, even being human. You have to remember, back 20 years ago, the complaints were that people were abusing the system, but the system still needed to exist. Now, Disney is basically just saying, hey, bring your, special needs kid here, but we're not going to give you any special treatment. This is beyond disgusting. But when was the last time you observed Disney doing the right thing? Remember, they used to be held up as the pinnacle, the peak of, not just entertainment, but of humanity. And you had people aspiring to be all these things. And unfortunately, it gave us a Disney princess phenomena that led to more cultural decay. But I haven't seen a good story to report about Disney in a long time. Oftentimes, we're met with decision making as content creators, especially tied to entertainment, we're met with obstacles of what we really should cover. Should we cover the fact that there have been some people that have been not living after their visit to Disney? I don't want to cover those stories. I don't want to cover this story.
Here's the thing, Culture.
Yeah.
Kathleen, we can do a video on Kathleen Kennedy. Sure. She's going to be okay. She's got 4 houses and every one of them's got at least 5 bathrooms in them. She's going to be okay. We can cover Rachel Zegler and the crazy stuff she says. I don't want to cover this. And it's not because I feel it's not. Here's the reason. Let me just explain it. I don't want to cover this, Wiz, because I don't want this to exist. This is too low. The company should fix this before it gets to me.
That's why it needs to be covered. And that's why we're talking about it. And that's why stories like this need to be discussed, because we need to hold Disney or any company that engages in this kind of practice accountable. This is the age of accountability. Corporations, I talk about this often, but the corporations of today, the people that sold us stories and superheroes and heroes of the past, they have no more humanity. They are accounting, they are HRified, and they only care about numbers, dollars, and cents. There is no more humanity in the most happiest place on earth, in the most magical place on earth. And we need to talk about this because people need to know. They're not dealing with people that have empathy anymore. They're just dealing with machine corporations that only care about one thing, and it ain't you anymore. And we absolutely have to cover this. They should be ashamed of this. This is an easy solution. This was an easy one. There shouldn't need to be articles about it. You're right, bro. We shouldn't have to cover it, but we have to cover it.
Well, it can present it in direct polar opposition to the fact that Universal doesn't get this kind of bad press. Disney used to have the best PR in the world, and maybe Xenia Muncha was better than I thought she was. I thought that the Munch lady was a disaster. But compared to whatever PR people exist now for Disney, she was genius. Social media is disastrous for Disney. Regular media is disastrous for Disney. We use the clip often of them in promotion of the lady that misspeaks, misusing a word that really kind of outlines, what's happened to Disney over time. The antithesis is improperly used. Still one of the funniest things here. But I look at this in the shape language and all the other garbage that's being peddled by Disney, which is corporate blather at best and buzzword fest in a meeting kind of stuff that it really doesn't mean anything to anybody, including the people that work in the company. And yet here we are calling out something that is vitally important to Disney's core values, is the celebration of an opportunity to experience the park with the family, which is what Walt's motivation was for creating the parks in the first place. He says it very specifically. While sitting on a bench, he had this beautiful idea. It was originally going to be just for his employees, but he decided to give it to everybody in the form of Disneyland back in 1955. This is why this conversation, as you said, needs to be talked about. But oftentimes I'm presented with stories on the regular and I'm like, I don't want to cast light on this because I don't want other people to either exploit this or other people to get the wrong idea about this or 100 different ways to cover something. So I think we're in an era where Disney is no longer taking care of their shareholders, their customers, which are also their guests, or or their future. The value for the future is dwindling by the day.
I think Marvin and I talked about this a little bit on the pre-show, and this was something that I didn't feel real qualified to have an opinion about, but trying to take myself emotionally out from the story. As a corporate entity, I could understand Disney perhaps being concerned about having a post-op transplant patient of that age shortly after surgery and in recovery in a theme park with rides, especially given the fact that they've had a number of deaths recently that have been giving them bad PR. I could understand if they didn't want to have them in the park, period. But Marvin made the case that that's not what the issue is here. Now, remember also, being post-op, she's likely going to be immunosuppressed and have anti-rejection drugs, which is going to make her vulnerable to things in public as well. And I could see, as a corporate entity, Disney being very nervous about something like that. But Marvin's point was, no. What they actually want is just to have the lightning lane and everything else, that they're just milking the family and denying the DAS.
Right, Lauren. They didn't tell the family. Now's not maybe the best time. No. They just said, get in line.
yeah. They're trying to milk every possible dime out of this family. It's like their objection wasn't that she was there riding the rides. It's that we can make more money off of this family, and that's what makes the story, in my opinion, truly ghoulish here. And gosh, the PR that's going to ignite the firestorm over a story like this, I cannot imagine what they're thinking.
And it is time to put a bow on it for this one, folks. Is a gift to everybody who wants to know exactly what's going on in the entertainment industry. And we are so joyful that you were there to receive it. We hope that you had a great time. An attitude of gratitude on this channel every single time you decide to spend time with us. As we get ready to say goodbye, we only ask a few simple things. Click that like button, share, subscribe, click it, and stick it to those algorithms. It is the notification bell. Drop a comment down below. Let us know your thoughts. A mind is a terrible thing to waste, so waste not yours. And folks, as you get ready to head out that door, do you have a place on social media that you love to share this sort of thing? Hey, you can make this YouTube video sing by putting it out there for your friends, your family, and for those weirdos who just won't leave you alone. Folks, until the next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep having fun.